is Vanessa Riggs. I am a beautician and also the owner of Beauty and the Ink. We are a salon and tattoo studio located here in Orange County. So something that's a little bit different. Took us a couple years to get our permits, but I'm very happy that we did. And some of the things that I really wanted to make sure, oh, there we go, yay, okay. So some of the things I wanted to make sure that I did and carried in the salon was organic products, ammonia-free hair color, products that didn't contain any sodium lauryl sulfates, no parabens, ingredients that were environmentally friendly. That was something that was extremely important to me. And I want you to be able to love your hair with the products that you use, because hair is definitely very important. So what is hair? It's the stuff that, grows out of the top of our head and sometimes is very inconvenient for us. Sometimes it can give us extremely bad hair days, and sometimes it can make us feel absolutely beautiful. So what I want everybody to do is go ahead and take your hand and just kind of run it through your hair. And go ahead and, if you can, grab a single strand. Get that going here and go ahead and pull that out if you can. Everybody got one? Okay, perfect. So I want you to go ahead and kind of just roll it in between your fingers. I want you to become a little bit more aware of your hair and the texture of your hair, how it feels. You can slide it one way and notice that going the direction from the root to the end is more smooth, and going the opposite way you can feel a little bit more of a rougher texture. Now take your strand of hair and hand it to your neighbor. Go ahead and share your strand of hair. Hair is basically made up of protein, primarily keratin, just like your skin and your nails. I want everybody to feel the difference. Feel the difference in between just your neighbor's hair. It may feel quite different. It may feel quite the same. But I want you to become more aware of your hair and become more aware of the hair because of its purpose and kind of what it does. Basically, the hair is made up of 3 different layers. We have our cuticle, which is the outside layer of the hair. So that's what, when you go down your hair from root to end, that smoothness and going back the other way, the cuticle is thin cells that lay almost like shingles on a roof. So that's the protection that our hair gives us. Underneath the cuticle, we have our cortex. Hair is straight, or if it's curly. So this is where that is found. Also, the next layer is the medulla. The medulla actually is kind of unknown. The purpose of it is they've done research and they kind of don't know what it does. And it's actually not in all of our hair. So like the hair that's on our arms, the fine hair that's on our legs, sometimes it's not fine, sometimes it's coarse. But that actually doesn't have a medulla. But what we do know is the medulla actually is connected to the dermal papilla, which is in the hair follicle, which is where our blood flow is. So that, definitely is something that's extremely important. The hair grows in 3 different growth cycles. We have our first stage, which is the anagen phase. Sorry, you can go ahead and kind of toss your neighbor's hair on the ground. You don't have to hold on to it the whole time. Oh, it's not working. Okay, can you hear me now? Oh, sorry. Okay, do you want me to repeat anything? Are you okay? Okay, perfect. So we have our first stage, which is our anagen phase. And this is actually the phase of what about 85% of our hair that is actually present on our body is in right now. It's the growing stage. So with the anagen stage, it stays growing anywhere from 2 to 6 years. So that hair has been there for quite a while. And then the next stage that we have is the catagen stage. This phase is actually the transitional phase, and this only lasts about 1 to 2 weeks. And during this stage, your hair strand is actually detaching itself from the dermal papilla, ready to get going to the next stage, which is your telogen phase. And during this phase, unfortunately, our hair has stopped growing. So our hair no longer grows. And at this point, a new hair is growing in that follicle and pushing this old one out. So the average person loses about 100 hairs a day. So when you see that hair in the drain of your shower, it's perfectly normal. It's okay. But with this, why it's important is because our hair is always growing. It's going through all these different cycles. And there's a lot that we don't know about the hair strand. There's still debate on what the absorption level is of the hair strand. Like the medulla, some stuff is unknown. But with studies that are coming out and research that's being done, it's telling us that the scalp is actually one of the best places for absorption. So what we do apply in our hair, on our scalp, is being absorbed into our body. So with that, that's what we want to be careful about, and that's what we want to pay attention to. So, saying no to toxic ingredients that are in many hair products. We want to say no to ammonia. We want to say no to thioglycolates, to phthalates, to parabens, resorcinol, formaldehyde, sodium lauryl sulfates, and plastics. These are all many common ingredients in our everyday products that we use. So we just want to be a little bit more careful, be a little bit more aware of these products that we're using and our salons are using. Color. So we all know when we've gone to the salon or even maybe done our hair ourselves at home, that wonderful smell of ammonia. It's that smell that kind of fills the air, tends to maybe burn our eyes a little bit. Well, ammonia actually is used in color to blast open that cuticle. So that first layer that we felt with the rough texture, the shingles on the roof, that's being opened by the ammonia, allowing the color to penetrate into the cortex layer of the hair. So that's basically why ammonia is being used in our hair colors. So it's blasting open the cuticle, and it can also damage the amino acid in the cortex layer, which when that happens, if you've ever had anybody or maybe even felt it in your own hair, the jelly kind of mushy type feeling if your hair's been overprocessed, that's what happened. The amino acid has been damaged in the cortex layer of your hair. So with ammonia, the most immediate side effects that we see or that we feel are definitely on the mucous membranes. So our eyes, our nose, and also when we inhale the ammonia, first, that's where we see the biggest kind of irritation. We don't need ammonia to make color work at all. We don't need it in our products. We can get the color from hair dye by adjusting the pH level of the hair color. So ammonia is not needed at all. But some of other side effects, some of the other side effects are actually ammonia is a known carcinogen. Large exposure to this can actually cause depression, high blood pressure, damage to the skin cells, eyes, liver, kidney, and the lungs. Now, that does not sound fun to me. Resorcinol is a common ingredient used in hair color as a bleach to stabilize it. The federal government regulates exposure to resorcinol in the workplace, but there's absolutely no regulation for it in hair dye. That's kind of scary, but it's something that's true, and we have to educate ourselves on it. It's extremely dangerous when absorbed into the blood system and can actually be stored in fat cells. It is a frequent allergen that most people have a reaction to when they have an allergic reaction to hair dye. So if you know somebody that's allergic to hair dye, usually this is a culprit. Usually this is what most people tend to be allergic to. It is a known thyroid disruptor. It's a skin irritant. It's also a top concern by many state health departments. We do not need this in our products at all. Chemical services. Okay, so we have our wonderful perms from the 80s. How many of us have had a perm? I had my first perm when I was 8 years old. And what I remember from that time is that I was sitting in the chair crying because my eyes were burning. It was not fun at all. Thigocalates is usually, that's what the culprit is. It's that nice egg-smelling odor. Nice, wonderful. It's used in perms and relaxers. It helps to break the bond of the cuticle so that the structure of it can be changed. So that's what basically is breaking the bond so that we can either go from curly to more of a relaxed hair strand or to a curly hair strand. And with thigocalates, the mucous membranes are irritated, again, of course, because of the vapors, the exposure in that. It has been known to cause skin burns, desensitization of the skin, but also, used over and over, it can eventually cause your hair to break. So if we've ever had a perm that's been left on too long, or maybe a relaxer that's been left on too long, and the ends start to fry, and then eventually they just break off. Formaldehyde. This is simply a huge health hazard. Formaldehyde is something that should not be in our products at all. There's a big controversy with it, the past couple years with all these new straightening products, smoothing systems that are out there, and them not disclosing that they had formaldehyde in them, or saying that, oh, we don't have any formaldehyde, and then yet upon testing, 15 out of 16 hair straightening companies had a substantial amount of formaldehyde. With formaldehyde, you have your allergic reactions, massive amounts of hair loss can happen, face and neck rashes, scalp blisters. So it's something that we really want to be careful about, especially the vapors. When getting hair straightened, the heat of the flat iron usually has to be about 450. That's an extreme temperature. So when going over the product, vapors from the product and the formaldehyde are being immersed into the air. And not only are you breathing it in, but the stylist is also breathing it in. Products. So these are just a few ingredients that I want you to just be a little bit more aware of, again, in your everyday products. Brianna talked a little bit about the sodium lauryl sulfates and the parabens. And the phthalates, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of also reiterate that. Your sodium lauryl sulfates, your SLSs and your SLESs are what makes your shampoos and things like that suds. It's a preservative, and thankfully most companies are starting to take this out. They're becoming more aware of it, and also because, definitely in Europe, they don't have these in their products. And now we're starting to be able to get some of those same nice pleasures that they've been giving Europe here in the United States. With the sodium lauryl sulfates, things that can happen, they can cause eye and scalp irritation, reactions, swelling on the face, and the most unattractive quality is that it can definitely make your hair frizzy and dry, which is something that we don't want. So your phthalates, generally used as a gelling agent in products to promote durability and flexibility. With your phthalates, it can also exist under the term fragrance. So it doesn't have to be listed as phthalates on your products. It can be under fragrance and nobody would ever know. With your phthalates, this is something that is an endocrine disruptor. It's known to mimic human hormones. It has been linked to obesity, toxic organs, and also an infertility increaser. So that's something definitely we want to pay attention to also. So parabens. Parabens is a synthetic preservative that is also an endocrine disruptor, which mimics estrogen, and it's extremely bad for women. It can also cause skin rashes, irritation. We have plastics. Plastics are something that's very common in styling products. It's something that coats the hair. So it gives it kind of that more the products that tend to be have more of a hold on them. But what it does is it coats the hair, so when you use your thermal instruments such as your flat iron and your hair dryers, it almost melts the plastics onto your hair. So you're creating a coating on your hair, which later on down the road can over dry your hair and cause your hair to break. So when you see a lot of breakage in your hair, a lot of times that can be the culprit, is the plastics that's in the styling products that you're unknowingly. Argan oil is fine. It's more like the plastics, because it has that melting effect when you get into that high heat. So that's where it's has that coating. So that's what you really want to watch out for, the breakage with the plastics, and using that with the high heat and the coating causing the breakage over time. So should we take the good with the bad? I mean, do we have a choice? We do have a choice, but sometimes it's not that easy. Salon products don't have to have the ingredients in them. Like I said, in Europe, and Brianna said also, they've taken these products, a lot of these products, or ingredients, out of the products. And now we're, just starting to get a little bit of that, where they're starting to take some of those ingredients out of the products for us as well. We can still get the same effects without the negative side effects. For me, the first time I kind of learned that not all shampoos and conditioners were the same was when I was 15, had my first job, and was finally able to buy my own beauty products, and I didn't have to use the Head and Shoulders that my mom bought that was in the shower. So, every time I went over to my friend's house, they had herbal essence, they had Aussie, and their hair smelled great, and it was wonderful, their hair was beautiful. So when I was 15, had my first job over the summer, school was about to start, walked myself over to Rite Aid, got myself some Aussie shampoo. Within 3 days, my back, all the way down to the back of my arms on my elbows, broken out, boils, pimples, pustules. It was horrible. I was 15 years old, had no idea why I was breaking out. It just happened within the 3 days. As soon as I switched my shampoo and conditioner again, everything started to go away. So that was my first experience with, knowing that something wasn't right and something in the products were coating and leaving behind a residue. Is your health worth it? Ask yourself if your health is worth it. Wouldn't you like to stop breathing in toxic fumes, get rid of unnecessary chemical absorption from your scalp? What about helping to fight unwanted aggravation and possibly even cancer? You can do this, and it doesn't have to be large steps, although you can go home today and empty out your beauty cabinet and throw everything away. Might be quite expensive, but if that's the way you like to do things, you can do that. But I'd like you to at least start taking small steps to promote a change, a permanent change. So what can I do? What can you do at home? Educate yourself. You want to read up on toxic ingredients, not just from what I'm telling you, but go home and just Google some ingredients. Just start learning a little bit more, educating yourself a little bit about them. As Brianna said as well, reading labels. That is one super important thing that you always want to do, is read labels. Just because the woman over the counter is telling you that a product doesn't have a certain ingredient in it doesn't mean that it doesn't. Oops. And ask questions. You want to always ask questions. Ask your stylist, ask a friend maybe who is on the same path as you. Maybe they have a little bit more knowledge or at a little bit more of an advanced area than you are. Ask questions, ask about everything that you may not know. Share your information with family and friends, because the more that you talk about it, the more encouraged that you become. And that's extremely important. Even though your friends and family, some of them, I know my family does not want to listen to anything I have to say. They half the time they think I'm nuts. So, yeah. So the more, just talk about it, because eventually they might hear something, and then eventually down the road when they hear somebody else say it, they're like, oh wait, hey, my daughter, my mom, somebody, oh, I remember them saying, hey, maybe they weren't so crazy after all. But mostly it encourages you to stay on your path. Replace those aerosol hairsprays with a pump hairspray. If you could do one thing today, and if you have an aerosol can at home of hairspray, please do go replace it with a pump. That's one of the easiest things to do. And packaging has gotten so much better, so you're not going to get that straight stream of hairspray going anymore. It's going to be a nice mist, very similar to your aerosol can. Ask your stylists if they have a non-toxic option. Ask your stylist in the salon if they have a alternative, or maybe if they can get one. I know that it's hard to change your stylist. It's hard to go to a new place, especially when you've gotten your hair done by the same person for years. So just ask them, and they may. Yes, you can ask. Unfortunately, a lot of salons, they don't allow you to bring your product in, but if some may. So that's a great idea to just kind of ask if you can bring your own non-toxic products in. Find a salon that fits your needs. If you are somewhere your stylist just absolutely can't change, they won't change, the company won't change, and you really, really would like to start changing your hair products and start using things that are a lot, safer and more non-toxic, it's time to find a new place and find a place that fits your family's needs.